In this video, I will let you know how to establish the WebSocket server onto your ESP32 board or the NodeMCU board, and after that, I will also let you know how to write the JavaScript based code inside your HTML document to make a communication between the client and the server through WebSockets. So let's get started. So those who are new to my channel, let me tell you that I am currently running a series whose aim is to make a local area network based home automation system using the ESP32 board or the NodeMCU board, using which we will be able to control the appliances as well as we'll also be able to monitor the sensors data locally, and we'll be making everything from scratch. So during this journey, we'll be learning about the ESP web server, MDNS server, WebSocket server, JavaScript, HTML and so many stuffs. So if you're interested in making this local area based home automation system, or maybe if you're interested in any of the topic which I discussed earlier, make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of the episode. That being said, let us start with the third episode and let's learn about what WebSocket server is and why it is important and why it is more useful as compared to HTTP. Let's jump onto the computer. So first of all, let's start this episode by talking the difference between the HTTP and the WebSocket. Now, for those who are new to this channel, let me tell you that we have already completed 2 episodes of this series, and in the last episode, we have successfully created our own HTML page with the buttons on it. With that, we were able to control the relays attached to the ESP board. So if you missed out that episode, I will attach the link for that in the description and also in the I button. That being said, let's just start with the difference. So earlier we were using HTTP protocol for sending and receiving the data. Okay, so as you must be knowing that we were requesting a new link for each button. Okay, so that was the HTTP protocol. But this is not the case in the WebSocket. Okay, so if I just open this table in a new tab, so this is the table. First of all, HTTP is a half duplex communication while WebSocket is a full duplex communication. Okay, so in the half duplex communication, only one machine can send data at a particular time. Let's take an example of a server and a client. So in a half duplex communication, only server can send data to the client, or the client can send data to the server at a particular time. Both of them can't send data simultaneously at the same time. While in the full duplex communication, which is used in the WebSockets, both the client and server can send data at a particular time. So that's the benefit of a full duplex method that is used in the WebSocket server. So second comparison point is about the messaging pattern. So in the HTTP protocol, we need to request the link and then we get the response. Okay, while in the WebSocket is a bi-directional communication. Okay, so if I need to explain this messaging pattern with a diagram, then here is the diagram for that. So in the HTTP server, if one of the client is sending hello to the server, okay, so as you can see, this yellow client sent hello to HTTP server. Now this orange or the red client didn't receive the message yet. Okay, so when this client will receive the message, when this client will request one link to the server. Okay, so as you can see, this client has requested the link to the server that, hey server, is there any message for me? Then the server replied to the client with a response which says yes, Ken says hello. Okay, so when this client requested, then he got the response. But if the client didn't request it, maybe he can't get the message at all. So this is about a request and response method that is used in HTTP. While in the case of WebSocket, as you can see, as soon as this yellow client sent hello to the WebSocket server, at the same time the red client received the message hello. So it is a real-time server. Okay, so as you can see the difference, the WebSocket server is a real-time server in which the message is received on the other side or to the other client in the real time. Okay, so that's the messaging pattern used in WebSocket. So it is a bi-directional pattern, while in the HTTP it is a request and response pattern. Okay, so that's the difference. This is the most important difference, I think so. Okay, moving on to the next difference, which is the service push, which says not natively supported client polling or streaming download techniques used. Okay, so this means that in the HTTP protocol there is no native service to poll the client all the time. We need to request the link, then only we will get the data. There is no such technique to continuously poll that server. Okay, if we want to poll, we just need to request a particular link at between a particular interval of time. Okay, while in case of this bi-directional, or we can say WebSocket method, it is its core feature. Okay, so it is this basic feature of WebSocket where the clients are always connected with each other. So that's the core feature of the WebSocket. So yeah, these were some important differences which will make you clear about how WebSocket is better than the HTTP. Okay, so with this basic knowledge of WebSocket server, let's just write the code for it. Okay, so here is the code which we have written in the second episode. So for the WebSocket server, first of all, you need to have this library, which you can get it from Sketch, into include library, into manage libraries. Okay, here just search for WebSockets. Okay, then you have to install this library. Okay, you have to install this library. In my case, it is already installed. After that, we'll include this library here. Okay, so after that, I will be establishing that WebSocket server at a particular port. For that, we have to write as WebSocket server. Then we have to define one object. I will name it as WebSockets. And after that, I will define the port on which we need to establish this WebSocket server. So we can define any of the port which is not utilized by any other protocol. That may be port 81 or port 100. Okay, so most common port which is utilized by many of the creators, many of the makers, is the port 81. So I will start that server at port 81 only. Okay, and semicolon. After that, we'll be beginning the server by writing as WebSockets dot begin. So this function will initialize the server. After that, we need to write one more command inside the loop which says WebSockets.loop. This is mandatory function to start that WebSocket server code inside this ESP code. And after that, we need to define one more function which will be responsible for receiving the data from the client, and that is WebSockets.onEvent. So inside that, we need to define the name of the function which will be called whenever we are receiving the data from the client side. Okay, so I'll name the function as WebSocket event. Okay, so here we have just initialized the function. Now I will define this function here at the before setup. Okay, so I'll write as void into WebSocket event. Now here there are some of the parameters which you need to provide to this WebSocket event. So I'll simply copy this much amount of code from my other code. So I'll copy this much code. I'll simply paste it here. Okay, so this is the code which will be called whenever we are receiving any data from the client side. Okay, let's just understand this code. First of all, this function is taking the parameters like num, which is nothing but a number assigned to the connected client. Okay, so in case any first client is connected to the server, it will automatically assign one number 0, then 1, 2, and so on. This number will be assigned to each client. Okay, so that is the number provided here. After that, we have defined the payload which will be receiving from the client side, that is the actual data. Okay, and after that, the length of that payload. Okay, so these three are parameters which we have provided inside the function. Okay, now inside that function, we have provided the switch cases. So let's just understand what kind of cases are there. First of all, we have the case like WS type, that is WebSocket type disconnected. Okay, in case any of the client gets disconnected with the server, then this switch case will be satisfied. Then we'll getting the response on the serial monitor as disconnected, and it will also represent which client was disconnected by defining its number. Okay, then if any new client is getting connected, what it will do, first of all, it will save its IP address assigned to that client. After that, it will print as connected. Then it will print the IP address assigned to that client. And after that, it will print the number as well, which is assigned to that particular client. So as soon as the new client is connected, what it will do, it will send as connected to the client. Okay, so I'll write connected from server, which defines that the server got one connection. Okay, so it is just sending the data to the client that, hey, we are connected, and this is message from the server side. Hence, I written as connected from server. And after that, we have defined one more case, which is WS type text. This function will be called whenever any message is coming from the client side. Okay, so what we'll do, we'll just print the payload, and we'll also print the number assigned to that client. Okay, and after that, I have converted that payload into string format so that I can use it to make any project or maybe anything. Okay, so this was all you need to do to establish a WebSocket server on the ESP side. Okay, now we need to write a JavaScript based code inside the HTML document to establish the WebSocket server on the client side as well. Okay, so let's just move to the HTML document. So here is the HTML document, but now we need to write the code in JavaScript. So let's just first understand like basics of JavaScript. Okay, so for that, I will again recommend that website called w3schools.com, through which we have learned a bit about HTML as well. Okay, so in this we can also learn about JavaScript. So first of all, I will let you know why JavaScript is important. Okay, so this line says everything. Okay, so JavaScript is one of the three languages all web developers must learn. And what are that three languages? So first is HTML, second is CSS, and third is JavaScript. And now they also define the purpose of each language. That is really very good. Okay, so HTML is used to define the content of the web page that we have already seen in the last video. Then talking about CSS, then CSS is used to specify the layout of the web page. and then the JavaScript. Then JavaScript is used to program the behavior of web pages. So these three languages are a basic languages which a web developer should learn or should at least know about it, okay? But in our case, as we are more on the tech side, on the electronic side, it's okay if we don't learn about CSS, because CSS is all about making the things look much better, okay? They don't add any logic or anything, but it is just used to make our web page look more neat, more attractive and stuff like that, okay? So in this series, I won't be covering CSS, of course, but I'll definitely go for JavaScript. So that being said, let's just start using the JavaScript based code, okay? So first of all, the JavaScript based code is written inside the script tag. As you can see, we have to start the script tag. We have to write all JavaScript based code here, and then we can close that script tag, okay? So this is the format in which the JavaScript based code will be written. Now where we can write this script, that is also defined here. Now that script can be written inside the head, or maybe inside the body, or maybe in both of them, okay? So there is no restriction about where to define the script. We can define the script anywhere inside that HTML document, okay? So here, as you can see, they have defined the script inside the head tag, okay? So inside the script, they have written my function and stuff like that. So everything is happening inside this JavaScript based code, okay? So as I said before, we won't be learning everything about JavaScript. We will be learning about only those things which are required for our project, okay? So for that, let's just move ahead quickly. Now we'll be learning about this JavaScript output, okay? So here you need to learn about this function called console.log. Now in Arduino, you must be familiar with serial.println, okay? That is used to print any data in the serial monitor, correct? The same thing is defined as console log in JavaScript. Using console.log, we can actually visualize the data inside the console of our web browser, okay? So after console log, let's just learn about the variables in JavaScript, okay? So here, as you can see, they are defined as variable var, then x is equal to 5, then semicolon. Now this is the same variable that we used to define in our Arduino based code, just like integer, float, string, etc. Okay, but in JavaScript, you don't need to specify that variable. You can just write variable space the variable name is equal to the data. Now the data can be a string, can be a float, can be an integer, can be anything, okay? So we don't need to define a particular data type. As you can see here, they have also mentioned one thing. So here, as you can see, they have defined variable pi, which is a float number. Next variable is a person, which is a string. And next variable is the answer, which is again a string, but is defined in the single inverted comma. So inside a JavaScript, you can define a string both in double inverted comma as well as single inverted comma. It doesn't make any difference, okay? So I think JavaScript is much more flexible as compared to that C++ or that Arduino language, okay? So I think we have gathered enough basic knowledge. So now let's just implement this basic knowledge of JavaScript inside the HTML document, and let's see how this basic knowledge can do magical things, okay? So I'll simply copy this HTML code, and I'll paste this HTML code in one of the editor which I'm using. So I'm using currently the Sublime Text Editor. So here is the HTML code which we have written in the second episode, okay? So let us start with writing the JavaScript based code in it. So I will write the script inside under that HTML. So I will just write that script tag, okay? And then I will close the script tag, okay? So after that, I will define one variable called connection, which will be responsible for all the connection established between the server and the client using the WebSocket, okay? Inside that, we need to write this much line of code, which is just for establishing the WebSocket connection at port 81 at a particular URL, okay? So here, first of all, as you can see, we have written WS, which stands for WebSocket. So earlier we were writing as HTTP, but for the WebSocket, we need to write as WS. Then colon, then slash. Inside that, I have written again this location.hostname, okay? So if you have watched my second episode, you must be knowing that location.hostname is used to get the current URL of the web server, okay? We don't need to define any particular IP address, rather than the location.hostname will be replaced with the IP address which is defined to that web server, okay? So here I have written location.hostname, and after that I have written colon, and after colon I have written 81 because we are establishing the server, the connection at the port 81. So this variable connection will be responsible for all the connections happening under the port 81. That's it. So after the connection variable, we will define the function which will be containing the task to be performed when the button is pressed, okay? So let us define first of all the function. So I will write as function space button 1 on, okay? So we'll be calling this function whenever the button 1 is pressed. Similarly, I will define one more function as button underscore 1 underscore off, which will be called whenever the off button under LED1 section is pressed, okay? Now what we'll do, we'll change this on click event. So earlier we were requesting one link inside the on click. Rather than now I will just replace this on click event, this windows.location code, and rather I will write here as double inverted comma, I will just call the function which is button underscore one underscore on. Okay, so as soon as the on button under LD1 section is pressed, we are just calling this function. Now similarly we will calling this button underscore one underscore off function whenever the off button under the LED1 section is pressed. Okay, so we have successfully defined that thing inside the HTML document. Now we need to define what actions we need to perform whenever the particular function is called. Okay, so that we can define here. So what I will do, I will simply write as console.log. Inside that I will write as LED1 is on. Okay, then the semicolon, and inside the function for off I will just write as LD1 is off. Now we have already seen that the console.log is used to debug our data, or just to visualize the data inside the console. Okay, so let's just put the code as it is, copy this much amount of code, paste it inside the ESP based server, and let's just experience this much code in action. Okay, so I'll paste that HTML code here. Okay, I will select the right board and port which is already selected, and straight away click on this upload button. So currently I'm using the ESP32 board in my case, but you can also use the NodeMCU board. That won't make any difference. Okay, so the code is successfully uploaded. Let us open the serial monitor. Let me just reset this board. Okay, so MDNS responder started. So I will connect my laptop to the techiesms access point created by my ESP32 board. Then I will open the Google Chrome. So here for this JavaScript or for the console purpose, I will recommend to use Google Chrome only. Okay, so let's just request that esp.local. So yeah, as you can see, I got the same web page in response, but here's one difference. As you can see, we are connected to the web server and our client got its IP address as this one. Okay, so this is coming from the WebSocket programming side. Okay, so we are successfully connected with the WebSocket server. Now let us see the data. Like when I click on the on button, as you can see, we are not getting any response. Like if I click on and off button, we are not able to see any response, but we'll be able to see that particular thing inside the console. And to open that console, or maybe you can consider it as a serial monitor, just click on just right click here, go to inspect. Okay, after that you have to select console here. Okay, so as you can see, if I press this button, I can see that LED1 is on. It's printed in the console, and if I click on this off button, I can see LED1 is off, which is printed inside this console. So basically, this is a console or a serial monitor where we can see the response of the web page. So this is used for debugging purpose. This particular line of code is not used for making any project or anything, but it is just used for debugging. Now let's just make it more useful. Let's just make a project using this. Okay, so inside that HTML document, what I will do is, after the console.log, I will write as connection.send. Okay, now connection.send function is used to send data to the server. Okay, now this is the client based code. Of course, this client will send the data to the server. Okay, so what data we need to send, that we have to define inside it. So I will send the same data, which is the LD1 is on. Okay, I'll copy it and paste it here. Okay, similarly, I will send one more data by clicking on the off button, and I will write as LD1 is off. Okay, I'll write the semicolons here. Okay, let us copy this much amount of HTML document, paste that document inside the ESP based code. Now if you want to utilize this data, you can just write one code here. You can write one line of code that if a message, which is a string, okay, is equal to LED1 is off. Okay, if it is equal to LED1 is off, what we can do is we can just turn off the LED1 connected to our ESP board, and if the message received from the client is LED1 is on, we can just turn on the LED. Okay, let's upload this code and see this project in action. Well, this is not the actual way of transferring data between the client and the server, but still I'm just showing you a demo. Okay, so the code is successfully uploaded. Let's just open the serial monitor. Make sure you are connected with the access point created by the ESP board. Okay, so now I will just press the reset button on the ESP board. Okay, it says MDNS responder started. Okay, I'll open the Google Chrome and I'll refresh this page. Okay, so now if I press this on button, the LED on my ESP board should get turned on. Okay, so let's just try it out. Okay, so as you can see, the green LED on my ESP board is turned on because the message is received as LED 1 is on. And if I press this off button, yeah, the LED is turned off as expected. Okay, so we are able to control the LED without requesting any new link because this time we are controlling it using the WebSocket server rather than the HTTP. Okay, yeah. But as I said, this is not the way we should exchange the data between the client and the server. Rather, we'll be using a new format which is commonly and widely used by all of the creators, all of the makers and all of the companies as well. And that is the JavaScript object notation, popularly known as JSON. Okay. So in the next video, we'll be learning about the JSON format and we'll be learning like how we can exchange the data from the client and the server using JSON via WebSocket server. Okay. So yeah, this was all about this video where we learned about the basics of JavaScript programming used for this project and also about the WebSocket server. I hope you liked this video. If yes, then do click the like button and comment below like what new thing you learned from this video and what you will be making with this new learning. Okay, do let me know in the comments. And if you love my videos, if you want to support me, then hey, I'm also on Patreon. So you can go on to patreon.com/techiesms and you can support me and also get benefited. Okay, so yeah, that being said, ending this video here. Subscribe my channel if you haven't, and now just wait for my next video and then explore, learn, share with me, techiesms.